Hey guys, welcome in. It is Brad with College SportsCast. John Hammonds and I are here with you tonight to finish off our summer series of the SEC Media Days. Day 4. All right, guys, it is Brad with College Sportscast. What's up, Hammonds?
What's up, man?
So we've had a busy week. I've been writing articles. Go to greenvillesportsmedia.com and check them out. I've done preview articles for all of the Group of 5 conferences, plus the independents. I've also done some show articles, and I've also done a couple of FCS SoCon articles over the last couple of weeks as well. So check all that out at greenvillesportsmedia.com. All right, guys, we are here to talk all about the final day of SEC Media Days in Dallas, Texas this week at the Omni. And the final day had our team and John Roberts' team, who looks like he is showing up here with us tonight. So let me get John Roberts in here if I can hear him.
What's up?
What's up, man? There you go. Let's see. I like this one better. Okay. All right. So we've got John Roberts in here with us tonight as well. His team, as well as our team, is one of the 4 teams that we'll get to a little bit later on. But at the bottom of the screen, start out the show like we have been. We're here to do our summer series, day 4 of the SEC Media Days. Talk about that we are on the Real Fresh channel and WSBN TV channel 30. Download that BoxCast app, and then you can find us on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV through the WSBN channels on the BoxCast. So do that, and you can find us in the comfort of your own home. You can also find us on your Apple, your phones, and your Android, iOS, and the Android. So you can find us anywhere because we're everywhere. All right. And then I also want to talk about our Facebook. If you're on Facebook with us tonight, we have been growing tremendously on Facebook this year, and we appreciate that, guys. Like, share, tell people about us, but you can also send us stars, and sending stars helps us to earn some money to keep making content for you guys. Or you can now subscribe to our Facebook page, and you get your own subscribers page. When you do that, it is only 99 cents a month, and we appreciate each and every one of you. If you're on YouTube and you're watching us, we appreciate you as well. So we are on YouTube as well. So start with all of that, and then we will jump into SEC Media Days, day 4. And, by today, I think a lot of the media is kind of getting wore out. They've been there for 4 days, and I think, a lot of people's probably getting wore out by the day. Most people have to probably check out of their hotel rooms and all that kind of stuff. And so I don't think there was quite as much media there today as there has been the last few days. But we're here to talk about everything of the 4 teams, and we will get to those in just a second. But I did want to ask you guys one topic that I saw the commissioner talking about on the Paul Feinbaum show after Mark Stoops at the end here. So I wanted to ask you, there was a couple of questions asked to him on the Paul Feinbaum show about the possibility of a nine game conference schedule coming in 26 and beyond. And I just wanted to touch base real quick. We'll talk about it more. But I want to touch base with you guys. Hammonds, what do you think about the possibilities of a 9-game schedule in the SEC?
I like it. I think it bodes well for the conference. It changes how the non-conference schedule is going to be rearranged. But other than that, I mean, if you're a team, say like Kentucky or Arkansas, you know, some of those schools that are not top heavy, I think it. I wouldn't say it hurts you, but I don't think it benefits you because it cuts out on the non-conference schedule.
And we are seeing that because we are seeing SEC teams drop some games. Florida's dropped a game. I mean, there's been a couple of Pac-12 teams that were dropped out of the schedules by some SEC teams. And the reason why that's going on is because SEC is always scheduled 4 non-conference games, and a lot of these teams are getting down to 3 in the future from 2026 and beyond. So, John Roberts, just initial quick, what do you think about a 9-game schedule?
I mean, look, it's not going to, I mean, look, it'll make the SEC tougher, as we all know that it's the toughest conference in America. But here's the deal. Look, they don't need the 9 games. They don't have to have them because everybody pretty much plays a non-conference game against a Power 5 or Power 4, conference. So Auburn this year is playing Cal. Most everybody has a rivalry with either an ACC or, an ACC school or something like that. So you've got, Florida with Florida State. You've got, Florida even plays Miami as well. So they play 2 big ones out of conference. But you got South Carolina and Clemson. You've got Kentucky and Louisville. You've got Georgia Tech. Not that these are like great, huge out of conference. I mean, some of them, Florida State's still pretty good. Miami, whatever. But some of these are pretty decent teams. So it's like having a 9th conference game, because what's going to happen when we go to this 9 conference game schedule? Are they still going to go with these out of conference Power 4 games? Are we going to have 10 Power 4 games? Or
I have a feeling that that's going to be dropped, but that hasn't really been talked about, and we're not going to really dig into that today.
So then what benefit, because at this point, at this very moment, you're not really benefiting because you're not getting any extra money. You're not getting any extra money.
But I think it's going to be mainly about being able to fit playing everybody inside the SEC. And that kind of stuff.
Again, that makes sense on that standpoint. But what the schools are going to look at are we getting any more revenue for a 9th game? Or there's now more there's more commodity there, but the revenue is the same. So why do that? That's kind of the thing right now. Is
it just depends. If the revenue might not be the same. I mean, if you get the network to say they want more SEC games because they're competitive and you're going to get more revenue, then it does make sense on that side.
Correct. They would have to get more revenue. So the point is that the revenue stream would have to be that they would get, compensation for an extra game, or otherwise the schools aren't really going to go for it because they've voted it down before. The conference has voted it down multiple times.
But
and
it's because getting rid of some games. There have been some schools here that's kind of narrowing down that 4 game to 3 games. from 2026 and beyond, there are some indications that it could be on the horizon, is all I'm saying.
No, I mean, I totally get it. And I mean, look, I'm
Yeah.
all for it. I would love to watch 9 SEC games. I would love not to watch any of these other cupcake games that are out there. But the problem is, again, if they do this, then they're going to get rid of, more than likely, the out of conference.
And I don't know that for
game.
sure. And like I said, we're not really going to get into that. I just wanted to kind of touch base today. But I mean, we will debate this further on in our show.
Oh, yeah.
So that I just kind of wanted to touch base and see what everybody thought about it. I do believe that is where we are headed.
Oh, we're definitely headed there. We're definitely headed there.
All the ins and outs yet. I have no idea if they're going to keep that, Power 4 out of conference game, if they're not, or how this is all going to work out. And I have a couple of ideas on this 9-game schedule, and we will get to that, I promise, because I definitely want you guys to know my idea on the scheduling, but that's not today. So today we're going to start off with the guy who come up first at the SEC Media Day and the final day, and that was Arkansas' Sam Pittman. And he come up to the podium first today. And Hammonds, how do you think Pittman looked at the podium? How do you think he sounded? What do you think the outlook is with, the way he handled himself today, I guess?
I mean, he was upbeat. He talked about, how they need to finish the season better, and the close games.
That's been a problem for 2 years, not 1, 2 years.
And he went on to explain, too, that in the SEC, it's not realistic to avoid those close games and win most of them by 21. But you got to figure out how to turn that, record from 1-5 into 3-3, 4-2, whatever. The biggest thing with Arkansas last year, they lost 8 games last year, but 5 of those were by 7 points or less.
Right.
They had
but they kind of done that same thing 2 years ago. There's been 2 years in a row that they have lost a lot of close games.
Yeah, and the exception of, they beat Florida in overtime by 3 points, I believe. In 3 of those games, though, Arkansas was tied or leading with 8 minutes to go.
Right.
And giving up the winning score or at least having a chance to win the game. Look at the Alabama game. They was behind, 24-6, and they pulled within 3 in the fourth quarter and had a chance to win. Mississippi State game was the same way. They trailed 7-3 at halftime. Offense couldn't do anything. For me, I'm just going to say this on Pittman. His seat is scorching. And I say this, that I wouldn't say the Oklahoma State game right out of the gate is a must win for Arkansas.
Yeah, but they can't get blown out because Oklahoma State.
They can't get blown out, but I don't think it's a must win. I think where it needs to start is in the SEC. Win some games that you're not supposed to.
Yeah.
Whether it be Auburn,
all right, John,
State, whatever.
John. So Roberts, can't say John because it's both of y'all's darn names. So all right, all right. I was going to ask you. I'll ask you about what do you think the significance is of Pittman hiring Bobby Petrino?
So I really think that this particular hire, I mean, look, you're bringing Bobby Petrino back into Arkansas. You're bringing him back to be the quarterback whisperer of your program. And the last time he was in Arkansas,
they were really good.
They were really good. They were like, number 3 or 4 in the country. They were kind of up there. They were behind Alabama and LSU, pretty much.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
So it was Alabama, LSU, Arkansas. Top 3 teams in the country or something in that form or pretty close to that order right there. So they're trying to bring that magic back. They've felt like that they've waited long enough away from that.
Is it a desperation? Is it a desperation throw to Bobby Petrino, or is it in time? Do you think that he's going to make a difference?
I think what they're trying to do is to see if he'll make a difference and to do it without making him the head coach. And then possibly
I mean,
he's
yes,
there.
I agree with that take for sure. 100% on that.
Look, honestly, I think it is a semi desperation throw. I do think that they've kind of run out of options or people that would take the job or take some form of take the job. As far as being like a head coach over there, because of the fact that you were up until this year in a division in which you had Alabama in. Now there's no divisions, but still, that I think that kind of makes it harder.
Now you've got Oklahoma and Texas to worry about too.
Right. So you have the old Southwest Conference plus the
Yeah.
SEC Conference sitting
Yeah.
all right there. And look, I don't know if there's a way to expect that Arkansas could win the conference or be competing for it, at least not in a, you can't just sit there and say like in the next 3 years, they're going to be competing for the conference championship. I just don't know if that's going to be it, because you've got to hurdle Alabama. You've got to hurdle Georgia, Tennessee, LSU, A&M, Texas, Oklahoma, Auburn. You've got to get past every one of them. You got to get past, and now you got to get past 2 of the 3. You can't just win your division and pray to God that it's a down year and win the division.
So far down, they don't even need to be thinking about trying to win the SEC.
Then they don't need to be worried about what their coach goes, 5-7 every year.
I mean, they need to build and start going to some bowl games and winning a bowl game every once in a while, and before they even think about winning the SEC. John, so Hammonds, I wanted to ask you, because you were big on KJ Jefferson, and I wanted to ask you, like, do you think, like, what went wrong there? Because I think KJ Jefferson was a really good quarterback, and they have like really fumbled the ball with KJ Jefferson. Of course, he is transferred out, and they've brought in Bobby Petrino and everything. But do you think that's a tale, or what went wrong there? What do you think, Hammonds?
I really could not tell you what went wrong. He was a productive player for Arkansas.
He has loads of talent.
He was the embodiment of the program. A big physical quarterback, 6'3", playing for a really good football team in Arkansas. Pittman, big time offensive line coach, came to Arkansas to coach the Razorbacks. He missed a pair of games, I think, with injuries. Was it in 2003, maybe?
22, yeah.
And they struggled after entering the year, I think, number 23rd or something. And they finished out 6-6. And they beat Kansas in the Liberty Bowl. Everything just dipped in 2003. Jefferson, his touchdowns, his rushing yards, his yards per attempt.
Do you think he goes? He's a new school. Do you think he goes somewhere and kind of resembles his old self, and that's a tell towards Arkansas, or what do you think happens there?
I think it could go both ways. My biggest thing with KJ Jefferson is I think he was injured. The times that he was at Arkansas, he was hurt quite a bit.
He was, there was some injury there. So
I felt like that there was some, maybe some back drama in the locker. I don't know, because I'm not there. I don't know what's going on in the locker room. But at the same time, I think too, another part of this was he was injured. He didn't look like the same player when he was there to begin with, and it just kind of hit a pot to the head. You know, it kind of raised to the top to where, you know, he entered himself into the portal, one of the top quarterbacks, and eventually he just entered in and went to UCF.
All right, so that's enough of that because that's some old stuff. But so they bring in Bobby Petrino, and you know Pittman is back. I think he's on the hot seat. I'm just going to be honest with you. I really think he's on the hot seat. I think Roberts is, hit on something here. Could Bobby Petrino be a candidate if he is let go? My guess is if he is let go in season, Bobby Petrino will be the interim. That's my guess.
Yeah.
Here, if he is let go, and then Bobby Petrino will have basically a audition for the job for the last 3 games, 5 games, whatever it is. And I think that's a strong possibility here at Arkansas. Now, having said that, Hammonds, let's look at the schedule, because this is what we've been doing all year or all week long. We've been talking a little bit about and then taking a look at the schedule. So let's take a look at the schedule.
They start out with Arkansas Pine Bluff, at Oklahoma State. They play UAB, then they go to Auburn, then they play A&M in the neutral site, Jerry's World. Then they come home to play Tennessee. They have a bye week. Then they play LSU at home, at Mississippi State, Ole Miss at home, Texas at home against Louisiana Tech, and then they finish out the year with their rivalry game at Missouri.
So they play Texas, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Missouri, Auburn,
and LSU, and A&M.
I mean, gosh,
which is the rivalry game. So,
Roberts, do you see more? I mean, do you see any chance for more than 5 wins?
All right, I've got to pull up the schedule. What was that again? Just because I really wish I had a full thing of the schedule where I could see everybody's schedule. What was that one again? What was the first ones?
Well, they played Pine Bluff, and then Oklahoma State is the first 2.
Yeah, that's 0-2.
Then UAB, and then I think Auburn is next.
It's at Auburn, yeah.
That's what, maybe 1-3.
Well, I think UAB is probably a win, but
that's what I'm saying, 1-3.
Well, Pine Bluff would be. So that's
2 and 3. 2-2.
And then from there,
it's pretty tough.
The only 2 winnable games out of that whole stretch are Mississippi State, Louisiana Tech, and that Mississippi State game probably won't be as easy either because even though there's a first-year coach, it's at Starkville. So
yeah,
I mean it's not. That's
what I'm saying. So John and I have been doing this all week, and we have been. We're not doing any predictions or nothing like that, but we're talking about the ceiling and the floor for each team.
Right.
And I'm going to be honest with you. I have a hard time looking at this Arkansas team and their schedule and coming up with a chance that they could possibly get to a bowl game at 6 wins. I really feel like 5 wins is their ceiling.
Yep, that's what I said. And their floor is probably 4.
Or maybe even 3, but 4.
I don't think Sam Pittman, to me, is going to survive this season. It will get really ugly if he loses at home to UAB.
Well, so let's say they start out 2-2. That's losing to Oklahoma State and Auburn at Jordan-Hare. Okay. And then if they go through that stretch and lose, say, the next 3 games, I think there's a chance that that Pittman doesn't survive that. And then you're looking at, maybe the last 4 or 5 games, them giving an audition to Bobby Petrino. I mean, I think that is a real possibility here at Arkansas. I really do.
I think the only way Pittman really survives this season is he has to get to a bowl game. And I don't see it happening.
The only way he's going to do that is he's going to have to beat Texas A&M. He's going to have to beat Auburn. He's going to have to beat, like he's going to have to beat some teams that we don't think that they're going to have a chance at to get to 6 wins.
And he's probably going to be the underdog in most of those games. So,
yep, absolutely. All right, we are going to move on to Texas A&M. We've got 2 teams after this that we probably want to talk about a little bit more. So we're going to move on to Texas A&M. Texas A&M has hired Mike Elko as their coach, and he took to the podium for the first time as an SEC head coach today. And I thought he handled himself pretty well for, a first-time SEC coach, first time, seeing those bright lights and all the media people and everything. I thought he handled himself pretty well. He came from Duke, turned them around, had a 9-4 season a couple of years ago at Duke. Coached Riley Leonard the last 2 years, made him a big enough star that he transferred to Notre Dame when Mike Elko left. Mike Elko's done a great job there. Hammonds, how did you think that he done today at the podium, SEC first time?
I thought he done great. I mean, he done more with less at Duke. He really done a great job at Duke. For me, it's going to be interesting to see what he can do at a place like that's rich with talent at Texas A&M, because the cupboard isn't bare. They bring back quite a bit offensively, especially defensively. Colin Klein, if people don't know who that is, he's the former Kansas State quarterback. He will be the quarterback. No, he'll coordinate. I'm sorry, the OC. Led by Connor Wigman.
Connor Wigman is going to be the quarterback.
Connor Wigman, yeah, that was my fault. But with Elko coaching up this defense, which the defense a year ago was good and bad at times, Elko can coach. He's a really good defensive coach. He had Duke really good defensively. If he coaches up this defense and gets them to playing, A&M can be sneaky good. I mean,
they could. I got one thing to say about Mike Elko today that's going to be a little bit funny if you can go back and know who I'm talking about here. But if you don't, you're going to think I'm crazy. But so I had the TV on and I was just listening to it, and I was doing other stuff, and I wasn't really watching the TV. I just had it on, and Mike Elko was up and he was speaking and he was talking, and I got to thinking, and I thought, man, that voice sounds so familiar. And I thought, who does that sound like? And I got to listening a little bit more, and I was really trying to figure out who I thought he sounded like. Do you guys remember Steve Lavin at UCLA, the basketball coach?
Yeah.
I thought, man, he sounds like Steve Lavin. I know that's weird, but I really thought that he sounded like Steve Lavin when he talks. I know, I'm a weird guy, but anyways, I had to throw that in there when he talks. I thought, man, it's like I swear I've heard him talk before. And I don't know. I just thought it was weird. All right, so John Roberts. So A&M, the Jimbo Fisher trial and era is over with. And I know that you've had some fun with some losses and some wins even in the Jimbo Fisher era. And it's over. And now we're moving on to Mike Elko. What do you think about his first season coaching Texas A&M?
So I was out there talking about that this would be the hire that they should go after. I know that when they were, once they had fired Jimbo Fisher, or they parted ways with Jimbo Fisher, everybody was pouncing on several different coaches, and I said you should be looking at Mike Elko. Elko is the guy that they ought to be going after. Look, let's just go back at the last several different some of the successful coaches that have come from Duke, right? Steve Spurrier, successful coach at Duke, right?
Yeah.
Had a really good career at Florida. Okay.
Right.
Had a pretty decent career at South Carolina. I mean, he took South Carolina to heights that they hadn't seen before.
Right.
So, okay. Then you have David Cutcliffe. Cutcliffe brought the program back up. He had pretty good success in other places.
I'm gonna argue against that one. I don't really think David Cutcliffe, not as a head coach, he didn't really do all that well. He still did pretty well with Duke, because he had not
great to Duke standards.
I'm just saying,
remember, we're looking at Duke. We're looking at Duke. I'm talking about Duke. Okay. So Cutcliffe also, as a head coach, had Eli Manning at Ole Miss. Look, they didn't win.
Listen, I'm not arguing him as a coordinator. Right. Him as a head coach.
Right. Right. So anyway, Elko, pretty good at Duke. Had a pretty good quarterback over there. Did really well. Had a, they were fine.
Do you think Elko's going to do a better job than Fisher's done the last 2 years? Because you've kind of made a running joke about Fisher and talking about how he's going to lose here and this, and then somehow the last game of the season 2 years ago, you just out of the blue said they're going to beat LSU, and I'll be damned if they didn't. So,
because it was going to be the funniest thing. The funniest thing is if they beat LSU, it would be awesome.
And talked about how awful they were and everything else, and they were losing. And then all of a sudden he comes in and says they're going to beat LSU, and I'll be damned if they didn't.
You see what I have to deal with.
It was awesome. I said that they were gonna beat LSU, and you were like, no way. And I was like,
I'll be damned if they didn't. They did. He was right. I don't know how he got that one right, but they had a losing season. They were 7-5. I mean, does Elko step in year one? Because I have heard some people say that this A&M team might get to 8 or 9 wins. Do you think that's possible?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 5 pretty much, I'm going to say, guaranteed wins right now. And then there's several different toss-ups. And there are a few of them that are rivalry games. So that's why they're also toss-ups. So
how many do you look at and think, okay, that's probably a loss?
Well, again, we don't know what Notre Dame, if they're going to, what they're going to look like against Notre Dame. I think they're going to win against Notre Dame. All right. But Notre Dame has.
Imagine going up your first game.
Against your former quarterback.
Against your former quarterback.
Yep.
Because that's what Elko's got to do here.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's that. But then the next week is McNeese. That's a win. Then you got Florida. That's a toss-up because it's at Florida. And you don't know, because even though there's all this stuff talking about
I'm
Florida,
not high on Florida.
Florida is going to be a they're going to be backs pinned up against the walls, and they're going
They
to be a
are, but
desperate
I still
team.
think A&M wins. I really do.
It's weird in Florida. I bet you that might look to be a different game. Then Bowling Green and Arkansas, and I think those are both wins. And then Mizzou. And
Mizzou's
that
gonna be really
one
tough.
is
I think Mizzou's tough. I think Mizzou's is a
it's
better
at
team.
Kyle Field, but it's Mizzou, so it might be
Kyle Field to be different, but I think Mizzou is a better team.
right. Then you have LSU.
No, you have Mississippi State.
And then it's huh?
No, you have Mississippi State first.
Yeah, so that's right.
Mississippi
MSU.
State would be a win, probably.
Yeah, so that's 6 wins. And then LSU, then South Carolina at South Carolina, and I think that one's a win. At South Carolina, I think that one they go in there. Then it's New Mexico State. I think they win that one.
There's no Jerry Kill.
And there's no Diego Pavia. He's at Vanderbilt.
I'm sorry. I'm not going to bring it up again. Sorry.
No, don't worry. I'm going to bring it up when we go over the Auburn schedule because he's at Vanderbilt.
I know where he is. We already talked about him this week.
He's beaten Hugh Freeze twice.
We've already talked about him this week.
Okay,
I know
so
where
there
he
we
is.
go. Yeah.
Yeah.
But after New Mexico State is at Auburn. Now, in terms of the series since 2014 when or 2012 when Texas A&M came into the league, I believe that the majority of the time it's been the road team that has won this game between A&M and Auburn. But I think Auburn's a different team. And I think that this will be a different kind of game. Now, Auburn, I think, went into A&M and won it last year. Did they not? Or did they? I can't remember that one at all. I don't remember last season. So there was one that I wanted to forget, especially Diego Pavia.
I have to look that one.
Yeah. So I mean, look. Honestly, that at Auburn, and then you end the season with Texas, a game that you haven't played in a while.
Yeah, that one's going to be a tough
and that one's going to be
that's going to be tough.
Yeah, that one's going to be tough. So look, I've got at minimum, they've got 6 wins minimum. I mean, that is the absolute floor for them, and I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to do more than
9 wins. Do you think they can get there?
So they're not. So then what we're saying as far as the losses, if you're saying that there's 9 wins, the losses are what? LSU, Texas, and one other team, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what you're saying? LSU, Texas, and one other team.
Somewhere in that range. Yeah. I mean,
that's possible.
Hammonds, what do you think? Do you think the ceiling is 9 and the floor is 6? Is that what you think with them?
That's what I think.
I think likely it's 8 and 4.
I think it all boils down.
Yeah. The ceiling is the ceiling is 9. We're gonna go ceiling is 9, maybe 10.
Yeah.
Floor is 6.
I still feel that first game against Notre Dame is going to be a big opportunity because for the floor and the ceiling, because that first game's huge.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
But I still think they win that one. But
I don't know. Notre Dame will be much improved next year.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame has a chance to make the college football playoff here, and I really don't think Texas A&M does, to be honest. So that's my feeling. But all right, we're going to move on. The next thing we're going to talk about, I've been doing this each time this week and taking a little break here for just a second. This season, we are featured on the Real Fresh channel. You can actually go to his channel on YouTube right now and watch the last 3 days of our shows. He already has them up and has them posted. We are going to be on his channel full time with Howie Fresh on the YouTube, on the Real Fresh channel, YouTube channel. So I want you guys to go and check it out. And here he is to talk about his channel for just a second.
You need new entertainment. You need full-length content. You need the Real Fresh channel. Hey, I'm How Fresh from the Real Fresh channel. Subscribe today on YouTube. We have new content. We are a network of podcasters putting out new stuff every single day. Whether you need sports, pro or college, whether you need comedies, whether you need pop culture, whether you need wrestling, we've got so much content on there. Gaming, check it out. Live, not live, we've got it all. The Real Fresh channel. Subscribe today.
All right, that was Howie Fresh. We are going to be featured on the Real Fresh channel this year. We are going to be the college content for his channel. He does pro, there is comedy, there's all kinds of stuff there to check out. Pro wrestling, you name it, he has it on there. Gaming, there's all kinds of stuff. Check out his channel at YouTube at the Real Fresh channel. And we appreciate Howie and being on his channel. And we've been on his channel on our Sunday shows for nearly 2 years, nearly the whole time we've been doing this, close to it. But we are now doing all of our shows on his channel. So I want to give Howie a shout out. All right, we are moving on to Hugh Freeze in Auburn. And I'm going to be honest with you, I feel like I learned a little bit about Hugh Freeze today. I always thought when he was at Ole Miss, he was kind of a flamboyant character, and he was like, I always thought a little different. But today he seemed family oriented. He seemed calm. He seemed like he just seemed like a different person. I remember when he was recruiting that #1 class that he had at Ole Miss. And I remember seeing a couple of interviews with him, and he was just really kind of cocky and flamboyant and stuff back then. And I didn't see any of that today when he come out in his second year here at the SEC Media Days for Auburn. And John Roberts, down at the bottom of the screen, is an Auburn guy, graduated from Auburn. So I'm going to start with him. Do you see a major change in Hugh Freeze? Because I kind of do.
So the change isn't necessarily with Hugh Freeze. It is and it isn't. Okay. The change is with the continuity of the staff. I think that there's more of everybody's pulling in the same direction inside the athletics department.
I agree with that.
I think that happened after. Yes. I think that happened after last year. I think they finally got everything right.
Football-wise, I agree with that. I just the person itself.
Yeah, well,
there's been a major change with him, or no?
Well, I think with that, I think it just is more of a sense of relief or a sense of ease now, as opposed to tense because he knew he didn't have what he had, and the fact now he's got an upgrade in the offensive line. He's got upgrade in weapons that he can throw to. He's got, an upgrade in the running back room. I mean, even with keeping just Jarquez Hunter and then being able to recruit what he's got an upgrade there. He's got DJ Durkin as the defensive coordinator. Say what you want with him off the field, just like Hugh Freeze on the field, he's still a very good defensive mind. So
but there's still, and I'm going to say this, and John probably can bounce off of me here.
Yeah,
there's still some major questions around the offense that returns Peyton Thorne. But I will say this. They went out and they got Keandre Lambert-Smith. That was a major game. They got the 5-star and Cam Coleman. Those are going to be some upgrades for Auburn to build around. And I think if you can get the ball to these guys, I think it will be a much better season for Auburn than it was a year ago.
And don't forget Yeah, and don't forget that you have Rivaldo Fairweather as a tight end as well that you could throw to. Okay,
Well, and I
that
think
you returned
too,
from last
on
year.
top of what Hugh Freeze had to end the year last year, he had a really bitter end of the year. I think the recruiting cycle took a little bit of heat off of that.
Yeah, I think so too. And honestly, look, he had some receivers that were dropping easy passes last year. There were a ton of drops last year that was just, it was unbelievable. So even you couldn't tell whether, you know, whether Peyton Thorne was good or not, because you couldn't, I mean, he puts it in the vicinity of a wide receiver and it's dropped. This year, the hope is that he puts it in the vicinity of these guys that he's recruited and the guys that he's brought in.
He definitely recruited the wide receiver position. I think wide receiver wise in recruiting, I think he recruited the number 1 wide receiver class in the country with Cam Coleman, and he's picked up 3 other really quality guys in the high school recruiting class that alone. Right.
Yeah.
So I mean the receiving core at Auburn has vastly been improved. I mean, it's not even going to be close.
Yeah,
now,
and honestly, the thing about that is too, you've upgraded the offensive line as well, which should help not only in pass protection for Peyton Thorne, but at the same time help with run blocking as well. So if you could get a semblance of some form of running game and pass protection, you've got to think that leads well with having a good, you know, passing game as well that you didn't have at all last year. So,
but
there's those things as well.
Hammonds is right. I mean, there was a lot of talk and a lot of buzz about him going out in the transfer portal and getting another quarterback. It did not happen. He stuck with his guy. And today at the podium, he was asked about this, and I thought he gave a pretty good answer. I mean, he said that he felt like that with the improvements around Peyton Thorne, with it being the offensive line and the receivers and everything else, that he gave Peyton, he said he felt like Peyton Thorne in the other best conference in the world had already proved that he could do it at a high level, but they needed an upgrade in talent around him, and he felt like that is what they did. That was his answer today, and I thought he gave a really good answer when it came to that, and kind of answered some stuff for me anyways about this Auburn team. But
yeah,
Hammonds, I'll ask you, do they have some weaknesses on defense? Do you think this Auburn team, I think they improved a lot on the offensive side of the ball. Do you think they have some weaknesses on the defensive side of the ball? Specifically, maybe secondary.
I'll say, you know, they'll have new leadership especially with DJ Durkin and Charles Kelly. I love what DJ Durkin and Kelly are bringing into the defensive side of experience into this league. Eugene Asante is going to be back. He's a veteran linebacker for Auburn.
Linebackers, I think, is one of their stronger points or position.
And Kelly, and most people don't know this if they don't pay attention to Auburn. He's a former Auburn player. He had a year at Colorado with Deion Sanders. Auburn's defense ranked among the middle of the pack last year, if I'm right. Am I right, John? I think they finished the year 8th in yards allowed, and they were 7th in points allowed, I think.
Yeah, they were somewhere in the middle. Yeah.
Durkin's defense at Texas A&M, to me, was one of the best in the SEC. And I think
2 years ago, I thought their defense was terrible, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they weren't good.
Well, you got to
Texas
have
A&M, I thought their defense was terrible. Not last year. They were a little bit more improved. but they were terrible 2 years ago.
They were, and I think adding Durkin and bringing Kelly in here is going to be a big thing for Auburn.
Now, Roberts, I will give you this. I think that Hugh Freeze brought in a lot of guys that has worked with him before.
Yes.
So he brought in some continuity within his staff. And usually in the past at Liberty, at Ole Miss, that's when he has excelled the most, is when he kind of had his guys around him working together. So we will see if that is the missing key from last year going forward here. And I'm guessing, John, that Roberts, you think it probably is going to be a added bonus.
Well, and let me add one more thing here. I think what people are missing too is Auburn's defensive line will be as experienced as anybody. You know, they'll have Jason Jones, Keldrick Falk. They get the addition of Trill Carter, Philip Belita. I think that's how you say it. Is it Belita, John?
I think so.
I think that's how you say it. Their front four is going to be probably one of the top front fours in the country in the SEC.
Hammonds, let's take a look at their schedule real quick, and then
my major concern is at safety, the secondary. Their secondary is going to need some work.
So let's take a look at their schedule, Hammonds, and kind of run through it quickly, and then kind of go where we think the ceiling will be and the floor will be here for Auburn this year.
Okay. They start out with Alabama A&M at home. They play California. They play New Mexico. They play Arkansas. These are 4 straight home games. Actually, no, they play 5 straight.
I think they have 5 straight home games.
It's 5 straight. It's 5 straight.
Yeah.
And the first 4 should, if everything goes the way that they should, it should be first 4.
And then the whole month of October is away.
And I'll say this, that stretch between, and I'm not saying Kentucky's Alabama, I'm not saying they're Georgia, but Kentucky's not a gimme on this schedule anymore.
Correct.
So at Georgia, at Missouri, and at Kentucky is absolutely brutal in that middle of that.
They have a brutal October. They really do.
Yes.
And then they play Vanderbilt at home. They play UL Monroe. They play A&M at home, and then they play the annual rival game with Alabama.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. So when you look at this schedule, where do you guys feel, Roberts, you're a fan, you're an alumni. Where do you feel is, the ceiling? How high could this team go? Could they get to 9 wins? Could they get to 10 wins? Do you think 8 caps this season? Where do you think the ceiling would be?
The ceiling's 10-2. The ceiling. It's not going to happen. They're not going to get there. But that's the ceiling.
Their floor to me is probably 8 wins at the most.
That's the floor. High. The floor is less than that. That is what I'm expecting. I'm expecting an 8-4 season.
Well, look at the schedule. Alabama A&M probably win. Yeah. California most likely.
Mm-hmm.
New Mexico most likely. Arkansas most likely.
Yeah.
Probably going to lose to Oklahoma unless
it's their first.
It's a toss-up.
That's a toss-up because of the atmosphere that they're going to have, that they're going to experience. And right now, what I'm really upset about right now is that they've made that an afternoon game.
Well,
I really wish that was a night game.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. I'm sure, but so you got Kentucky next. Is that right?
No,
after Oklahoma,
you play at Georgia next.
At Georgia.
Well, that's
say you lose that one. Say you go on the road and beat Missouri, and go on the road and beat Kentucky.
Here's the deal. So while there are 3 road games in Georgia, Mizzou, and Kentucky, right after Georgia is the first bye. So They do have
There
the
is a buy-
ability
there
to
is a
heal up.
buy-in.
They're gonna, yeah, and
Yeah.
and just I'm while everything is not great, this right here is the best place for it, because what you don't want is you don't want Georgia to beat you twice. Georgia to beat you,
Yeah,
and then
no.
the team after them beat you.
Right.
Because
Yeah,
Georgia
I
beat you.
get that. Absolutely. I mean, Kentucky
So-
goes through crap every year. So, I mean, I get that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, we were used to that, seeing that, you know, when teams played against Alabama, then the team after Alabama, the team that they
I'm
played
just gonna
following
say,
Alabama beat
For
whatever
me,
team that was.
my ceiling for Auburn this year is 9-3. And I think the floor is probably 7-5.
Yeah. Like I said, the reason why I have the ceiling at 10-2 is basically the losses against Alabama and Georgia. And then that's it. And then they beat everybody else. That's the ceiling. It's the absolute ceiling. It's not going to be that way. I don't think they're going to do that.
9-3, if
But
they
I
get
think
to
that's the
9-3,
the
I think that's an absolute excellent.
Oh, no. That's an incredible
excellent
season.
season.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's an incredible season
Yeah.
compared to what they've done over the last several years. But what I'm saying is that the absolute ceiling right now is that they lose. The only two losses are Alabama and Georgia, where they
I got you.
win every other game. That's the
Hammond,
ceiling.
you think it's 10-2 and 8-4?
I do.
8-4 is not going to be the floor. I think the floor
They're-
is actually more of a 6-6 or 7-5. That's the floor.
I'm going to say
As much
7-5.
as much crap as I give Drink Local Be Him, John Roberts, this is going to be a much improved Auburn team.
Well,
Very
I
much.
agree.
They're going to be much improved.
I agree.
Like, they're going to be so much improved that I wouldn't be surprised if they knocked off Oklahoma at home. Like,
That I'm actually kind of starting to call.
right, I just
We'll see. We'll see.
I will say this, and we'll move on. If they beat Oklahoma, let's say they do beat Oklahoma and they're 5-0. You're going to have to start looking at Auburn as maybe a threat in the SEC a little bit, maybe a dark horse. So
I'll tell you what. When we get there, I might. But until then, I'm not. I'm just not ready to say that. I'm just not ready to say that. I'm sorry. All right, so we're moving on. We're getting to Kentucky. He finished up the SEC Media Days today. Mark Stoops come to the podium and was the last coach to come to the podium out of the 16 teams the last 4 days. Mark Pope. I'm sorry. I said Mark.
You got
Mark
Kentucky basketball in your mind.
I'm sorry. I don't even know why I said that. Mark Stoops come to the podium and finished up the SEC Media Days today. I'm going to start by saying he is the longest tenured coach in the SEC. He is going into his 12th year. He is the tied for the 6th longest tenured coach in the country. And I'm going to give you one more little tidbit. 12 years, he is the 19th longest tenured coach ever in the history of the SEC at 12 years. There's only been 18 other guys with a longer tenure ever at one school in the history of the SEC.
That one Saban.
Bear,
he's
Shug, probably Vaught,
And
or
Saban.
yeah, Saban's up there.
That guy, probably.
Die. Let's see, the other Georgia coach. Let's see. They
I
got
don't know how
Rick.
long Spurrier was at Florida.
Dooley.
Somewhere around there.
No, no, because he was like, yeah, I'm talking about Dooley. No, Spurrier was there 90.
I was going to say like 13 years or
3.
something, maybe, but it might be wrong. I don't know. You don't think it was that long?
2001, I think, was his last season there. I think it was only like 11.
It may have been. I mean, this is 12, so I know he's 19. I didn't see a full list, so I don't know all the names. But
I want to say Spurrier was 11. I think Bowden at Auburn, or sorry, not Bowden at Auburn, but Tuberville at Auburn was, I think, 10 ish. I think he was right at 10. So I think
listen,
he's longer
all
than
I know
Tuberville.
is it's pretty impressive,
Mm-hmm.
honestly,
It
that
is.
12 years that he is in the top 20 of longest tenured coaches ever in the SEC in football.
Correct.
That's pretty impressive to start things out with. Hammond, how do you think? I know you've watched it. How do you think Mark Stoops did? He usually does really well at these, I feel like. How do you think he did today?
I think he did good. I mean, he talked about, wanting more. He was talking about how they just wasn't going to settle for just less. We're going to keep going aggressively. I feel like the last couple of years have not been up to Stoops' standards. When we talked about that, before, and I think off the air,
yeah.
And I think there's not a lot of noise coming into this season for Kentucky. It's sort of like they chip on their shoulder.
It's really
thing.
not, but I really think that's when Mark Stoops excels.
I think it is
not that much noise.
And not to mention they have two of maybe one of the top defensive players in the country at two different positions. Deion Walker, nose tackle, and then they got Maxwell Hairston. And that's not to even think that they got Barry and Brown, Dane Key, and then they added the Macklin kid from, was it Tulane?
Yeah.
And, well, originally he played at Missouri.
Yeah. He was originally at Missouri,
He was originally at Missouri. So,
I mean, you got Dumas Johnson from Georgia, the middle linebacker. I mean, that's going to be a stud. I mean, honestly,
I try to pump up Kentucky every year, and
this
that
could be special. And I know that I'm a Kentucky fan. I'm wearing it, But when you look at this team, they've got some really nice pieces. Now, it's Kentucky, it's the SEC, it's tough schedules, it's tough atmospheres every single night or every single Saturday, and you just never know. Kentucky sometimes. My biggest issue is up until the last 2 years, up until through 21, so 22 and 23, I feel like we've taken a downward turn.
Yeah,
okay? Because through 21, we had 10-win seasons there, 1-2 Citrus Bowls, and this is stuff that Kentucky had never, in 40 years had never done. Okay, but the last 2 years we're 7-6. We've lost bowl games. We had Clemson on the damn ropes and should have won. The Gator Bowl this past year didn't. So my thing is this year with Stoops, with Kentucky, they have to get back to advancing and moving ahead and growing a little bit and not fall back into the same mess that they have done the last 2 years. And the number one thing, John Roberts, in order for that to happen, is they have to be better at home in the conference. They have to be better. If you go look at their record at home the last couple of years in the conference, it's not good.
No, it's not. And I'll even say this, that, we've had, this will be our third quarterback in as many years.
Well,
at some point,
it's the fourth different offensive coordinator in the last 4 years.
And this one comes with less experience with Vandergrift. Now, Leary had experience at NC State. Will Levis had experience at Penn State.
Levis didn't have a whole lot of experience,
but he played some at Penn State. Is what I'm saying. Like he had some reps. and now they've got Bush Hamda. He runs a pro style offense, and he's got, Dane Key, Brian Brown, like I said, and Macklin. The biggest thing for me on this whole deal is Kentucky faces up to 6 opponents that could be ranked in the top 10 nationally. They play Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, and Ole Miss. And a few of those others might be ranked later on, maybe Auburn. I'm on the Auburn train.
Auburn would have to have beaten Oklahoma and Mizzou in order to be in that conversation.
I think Kentucky. Go ahead.
They would have to be 5-1 or 6-1 going into that Kentucky game.
Yeah, if they were sitting at 5-2 before Kentucky, I think they might be ranked.
There's 2 things that worry me. Just 2 things. Now, I know the secondary is going to be better. Maxwell Harrison's really good. But on the other side, it needs to be shored up. It needs to be better this year. Last year, we was getting, it was giving up a lot of plays. The front 4 at times couldn't get a push. Now, Deion Walker is a different story. Deion Walker done his thing. But on the other side of the equation, there was times where we didn't really play good and we didn't help Deion. And that's got to have to change this year, I think, a little bit.
Well, here's what I want to talk about. I think that this recruiting staff and Stoops has done a heck of a job bringing in. I'm gonna just say it. Bringing in studs from stud schools, okay, as transfers.
Alabama.
So DJ Waller was going to be a starter at Michigan as a cornerback. Christian Story played for Nick Saban for 4 years and started some at Alabama as a safety last year. Brought him in. Dumas Johnson was a second-team All-American on the undefeated national championship Georgia team, and brought him in. Macklin was one of the top receivers in the portal. Started out at Missouri, went to Tulane when they lost the offensive coordinator, which by chance was Bush Hamdan at that time, who had stepped in.
And I kind of wanted to jump on the second part of this. The second part of me that worries me is we do really good in the first half of the schedule, and then after a bye week, we lose. So
John was talking about the bye week being a positive thing. Kentucky fans know that the bye week usually brings us at least 2 or 3 weeks of misery every time that we have it.
All the time, every year seems.
Yeah,
like.
you just want to keep the momentum going and going and going.
We'll be 5-1 or 6-2 or whatever. Here comes that god awful bye week, and then we lose 3 damn straight games every time. It never fails.
Never fails. I remember it was a couple years ago. We was coming off a bye week. I think it was the year Levis was there. In Tennessee, we went to Tennessee and got blown out. Like, it was just like we had never played a game.
That's probably the year that Vandy got us. And I mean, like, seriously, like it just seems like we lose 3 games every time after that October 1st of November bye week. That late October bye week or something. Every time.
Well, your first bye is after Ole Miss. So,
which is probably around the middle of October or something, right?
Nope, it's the 1st of October. It's October 5th.
It's right at the end. It's starting to be fall.
Well, there's 2 guys this year, which usually just
after Tennessee is the other.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you want me to go through the schedule real quick and tell you who they play? Okay. They play Southern Miss at home, first game. South Carolina is next. Georgia at home. Which are those are 2 ABC games, by the way, if people don't realize that. Like, those are primetime games.
They are.
So Then they play Ohio on the ESPN network. At Ole Miss, which is another flipping noon game, which I do not like. That's another. I hate noon games. I don't care nothing about them, but that's just part of the new networks. Play Vanderbilt at home.
There's a
At
bye
Florida.
in between there.
A bye between there, yeah. And then they play Vanderbilt, like I said. Then they play at Florida. Then they come home and play Auburn, at Tennessee, Murray
Bye.
State home. Oh, and then there's a bye.
Yeah.
And then they play Murray State, at Texas,
Texas,
and home against Louisville.
Okay. So here's my thing. I think there's some really big games on this schedule. If we lose to South Carolina week 2, I'm going to Lexington to kick their ass myself. That's all I'm going to say. I'm just telling y'all right now, I'm going to leave my boot on somebody's front porch.
Here's the thing, and I read this today. They was talking about the schedule and the games that are going to be important. And somebody had put Tennessee. I don't think it is. I think it's Auburn because you got to win that game.
Listen, the most important games to me on this schedule is South Carolina. I'm telling you, South Carolina is number 1 to me. And the number 2 game is Auburn. You want to know why? Because these are home games. And Kentucky has had an issue the last 2 years of winning big home SEC games. We got a game in between there against Georgia at home. We're probably not winning that game against Georgia at home, okay? But we've got 3 other chances. And South Carolina and Auburn are the 2 biggest chances to make some noise. And I know we got the Auburn guy on here, and I know we just talked about Auburn and the possibility of them winning that game for their season. But if we're talking about Kentucky, you got to flip that. And that is an absolute must win at home if Kentucky's going to have a good season.
Well,
Robert,
the reason I say this,
you would have to agree with me on that, right?
I mean, I think I agree with that Auburn is a big game at Kentucky. I believe there are 2 other games, but those you were specifically, pointing to home games.
Yes.
As far as the SEC schedule. So I mean, like, look, Ole Miss and Florida are also huge games, but those are on the road. Right. Yeah. Those are on the road. So those aren't necessarily the ones that you were referring to. You were referring to home games. So yes, right. I do believe South Carolina and Auburn are huge because if you can't get by Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt, then you're in trouble.
Right.
Here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That really knocks it off another hinge. They play Southern Miss, which they most likely should win that game. But you're playing South Carolina, right? You lose to South Carolina, you're 1-1. Then you play Georgia. You could be 1-2 going into Ohio game. And then you have to play Ole Miss a couple of weeks later. You could have 3 losses in a matter of a month.
2 and 3 to start the season.
That because we're not losing to South Carolina again. We're just not. I'm telling y'all,
because it could be 2 and 3 going into Ole Miss.
No,
3 and 3
we're not.
I'm not even at Vanderbilt. 3 and 3 after Vanderbilt. Then you've got Florida, Auburn, Tennessee back to back to back. If you were 3 and 3 with Auburn, Tennessee, with Florida, Auburn, and Tennessee on the right there, then you're in trouble.
Okay, so
listen, guys, here real quick. Y'all might want to tune in to the show if we lose to South Carolina. That's all I'm going to say.
Good. I need to make sure I find the needle to go ahead and keep poking at you. Just go.
I'm just
all right.
So,
poke,
let's
poke.
get to the main point.
Yeah.
What's the floor and the ceiling for this UK team?
Floor is 6. Because I can go in there and find 6 wins right now.
Yeah, I think the floor is probably 6-6.
Mm-hmm. That's the floor.
That's
ceiling's probably what, 8?
I think it's my personal opinion. I think it's 9. But in order to do that, you've got to knock off somebody that
you win 9, and that more than likely that's wins against Ole Miss, Auburn, and Florida.
Yes,
that's your 9. That's your 9 right there. Because you my wins that I just came up with that were right off the board were Southern Miss, South Carolina, Ohio, Vanderbilt, Murray State, and Louisville.
Yes,
those are your 6. That's your first 6.
Then you got
then if you knock off Ole Miss, Auburn, and Florida,
then there's your 9.
Well, then you play that Florida game, which Florida is probably going to be wanting. They're going to be licking their chops because I hate to say it, we've dominated them the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have had their number after they've had yours for like 25 years or something.
But here's the deal: and I know this is a big if, but you could trade the Tennessee game for Auburn or Ole Miss and still get to 9.
Well, yes,
I'm not saying it's going to happen, guys.
I think that one's more.
I'm done predicting that we're going to beat Tennessee. Okay, I'm done until it happens. I'm done.
Brad's out on that train.
I'd already given that one as a loss.
Seriously.
So
I'm done predicting that we're going to beat Tennessee. I can promise you, it's not going to happen.
I got tickled. Was it last year before? I think Brad was like so pumped up. He's like, "We're going to beat the Vols this weekend. Come out flat as a hammer and could not do nothing."
Here's
Brad
the deal.
Was like, "You know what? I'm done doing it."
Here's the deal. Here's the deal. Look. I've got Ole Miss, I've got the Kentucky right now as 6 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 6 and 4. Okay, hold on. 6 and 4 with no outcome, like where Auburn and Florida are the 2 toss-ups to make you to go whether you're going to go 6 and 6 versus an 8 and 4 team or 7 and 5.
I think
if you split those.
8 and 4 would be with this schedule. I think 8 and 4 would be a very, very good season for Kentucky this year. I just think if you are going to ask me the absolute very best, the top of the line that this team could do, I think it could be 9 and 3.
Yeah.
The absolute very best.
Yeah, I think 9 and 3 is definitely the ceiling, and like I said, I think 6 and 6 is the floor. I don't think you lose more than 6 games, or with the floor being lower than that. I think it's 6 and 6, 9 and 3, likely, somewhere in between that. But yeah,
I kind of wanted to say something before we get off here, because I told somebody I would mention it. If you all haven't paid attention, Kentucky had a former football player pass away this week. Vincent Sweet Pea Burns. I remember him in the Brooks era. Played with David Jones, C.J. Johnson. There was a bunch of them. Braxton Kelly.
He was actually recruited by Guy Morris. You guys might remember him at Baylor.
Yeah. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, he coached high school here in Kentucky, Bourbon High School, I think.
He did. He did coach high, and he was only 43 years old, guys.
43 years old. So yeah. I was told that, and I was told I would post that before we got off tonight. So rest in peace to him, and prayers to his family.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we've already talked about Monty Kiffin and all that this week, but we
finally got an SEC analyst that's Kentucky made now. We got Randall
did.
Cobb.
Yeah, Randall Cobb was on SEC Network today, which is good to see. So I agree with that. All right. So before we wrap this up, I want to talk a little bit about home field apparel. Here at College Sportscast, we're glad to be able to offer you guys some premium licensed collegiate vintage apparel. And they have over 180 teams. John may have his on, but I'm going to stand up and show you mine.
I don't have mine on right now.
And I don't have mine either.
Roberts don't have it on. Oh my gosh, I can't believe
I came straight from work, so basically I shed my work shirt and jumped on. So
all right, so this is Untouchables. This is a retro stuff here. It's actually got the year, but you can't see it. I don't know why, but I don't know if you can see it on there or not, but it actually says the year 96. This is Patino's team that won the title, the Untouchables. They have lots and lots of cool stuff there, vintage. I showed a shirt the other night, so I just want to show just how great of stuff that they have. And John Roberts there has several shirts from Home Field Apparel, and you can find them. We have a link. You can go to greenvillesportsmedia.com, and there's a little Home Field Apparel logo. It's a little stadium crown. And if you click that link, that is our link, and we will get a little kickback if you use that link. Just go to greenvillesportsmedia.com to do that. Or if you are a first-time buyer, you can use our code CSCAST for a 15% discount, and that will give us a little bit of kickback as well. And we would appreciate that. They have a lot of cool retro logos, mascots, these throwback shirts, jerseys, hats. I mean, you name it, they've got tons of stuff, and check them out at Home Field Apparel.
Big week for Brad Harvey. Coming week.
I am going to Greenville, South Carolina to cover SoCon Media Days. Going to help with doing that with Jay. He covers Furman football. Well, he covers Furman all sports, to be honest with you, with Furman Joust and GreenvilleSportsMedia.com. And I'm going there to help him. So I appreciate him giving me the opportunity to go down there and help. Me and Justin are going to help him for the SoCon Football Media Days. We will be there on Tuesday. I will be doing some stuff that day. I just don't know what time. We are hoping to be able to get a table and be able to bring you guys a few of the players and some interviews. We are trying to get the SoCon commissioner for about 5 minutes. I can't guarantee you that, but we are trying to get the commissioner. It won't be long if we do. It'll only be about 5 minutes probably if we do. But I do have a lot going on, and we appreciate you guys for helping us get there. And it's going to be kind of fun to go down there and be a part of the football media days. So
awesome.
Yep, it's going to be kind of fun to do. So I'm looking forward to it. All right, follow us on Facebook, College Sportscast. Look us up. We are really growing and doing some good stuff here. You can find us on YouTube, College Sportscast, TikTok, Instagram, or our Twitter handles are right there on the screen. This is each one of us. This is our Twitter handles. So you can follow us on X or Twitter. I'm sorry if y'all might just call it X now. Heck, I don't know. But anyways, does everybody still call it Twitter, or does people call it X?
I mean, there are people that call it X, but I still call it Twitter. It's Twitter.
All right, so
it's Twitter.
You can find us all on that. That is our Twitter handles, our X handles. But follow us, like, share, tell people Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Or you can also go to greenvillesportsmedia.com. I'm writing articles. There are lots and lots of articles being written there every day. We're covering the SoCon and Furman. We have a guy that writes about NFL. We have a guy that writes about pro wrestling. We have a guy that's doing.
I will be writing some articles this year too. So
we have a guy that's doing Greenville Drive, Greenville Triumph. I mean, doing some minor league stuff down there. So there is a lot going on at greenvillesportsmedia.com. Check out our website.
I'll be doing some Kentucky football articles this year. So
John Roberts does some Auburn baseball articles. Of course, baseball season's over, so I don't know if John is doing anything. Baseball season's over or not.
So we had I'm thinking about doing a little draft recap. We did have a few guys get drafted. So you had some few Auburn players that got drafted. You got a few of the recruits that got drafted, but several of the recruits that did get drafted have also come out and said that they're still coming to Auburn. So you're looking at some guys that were drafted in like the 19th, 20th round there were
one or two high school kids that were recruits that got drafted for Kentucky too. I don't know what they're going to decide to do yet.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the ones that Auburn was trying to figure out what was happening, they were guys that were, slotted that they might be around, the 10th round or whatever, and they didn't go until the 19th or 20th. And mainly that's just because of the possibility of being difficult that they may not sign. So why would you spend the money if you're, especially if the first 10 rounds are slot money and you kind of have to pay them your, whatever the amount is in the 10th round. Don't waste your money at that point. You wait until the 11th and beyond to recruit guys that are maybes, that you're taking a chance on.
Absolutely.
So, and I think that they kind of knew which ones were pretty much not coming or probably are going to be more difficult.
Maybe you can go to Greenville Sports Media and do some MLB draft stuff here with John, but we are covering all different kinds of stuff, and we just appreciate you guys trying to get everybody to know where we're doing stuff this year and be a lot more active in letting you guys know that stuff. All right. Real quick, look for me to be doing some SoCon stuff on Tuesday, July 23rd. And then Tuesday, July 30th is going to be our first conference preview. I haven't made my decision yet which conference we're going to do first, but we will go through each team and we will have a rundown of players' schedule, and we will officially make our predictions for the season in each 4 power conferences, and then we'll do a 5th one that is group of 5 independents, and if we think any of those or which ones of those will make the college football playoff. Because with the 12 team, we're guaranteed that at least one of those teams is going to make the college football playoff. So we will talk about the group of 5 and independents, and if Notre Dame and a group of 5, you could get 2 of them, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. So we will talk about that in our group of 5 preview. I'm not going to do one for each conference. We'll just kind of talk about the ones we think is going to lead that conference and have a chance, like with the Mountain West or Conference USA or whoever. So, all right, that's what's coming up. We will do those on Tuesdays each week in the month of August leading up to the first games. So
it's crazy. It's crazy. High school football is 36 days away.
The first one will be July 30th, Tuesday, July 30th. So, all right, guys, we are at the end of time. We're going to wrap this up. Thank you, guys, and we appreciate it. We will see you guys on the 23rd.